Hey guys, what's going on? I'm back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Tall Girl 2. Tall Girl 2 is a teen romantic comedy serving as the sequel to Tall Girl 1, continuing to tell the story of its main character Jodie Cramen and the friends who she attends high school with. The movie opens with a brief recap of key events that took place in the previous movie, after which it moves forward into the present. Jodie is much more popular than she used to be, and uses her newfound confidence to apply for the lead role of an upcoming play, which she successfully earns. Soon after though, Jodie starts to cause rifts between her and her loved ones owing to her miscommunications, and must work to repair them while preparing herself for the upcoming play. I will admit that this movie isn't as toxic compared to other teen rom-coms I've seen recently, such as Through My Window, but it still remains just as bad as the first movie was. The main plot is even more threadbare than before, the movie is stuffed with cliches, and the characters are completely forgettable. Jodie doesn't see much development as a protagonist. Although she's not as insecure about her height anymore, which in my opinion was a poorly explored area to begin with, there's nothing that makes her stand out as a character beyond the events that happen to her in this movie, all of which are poorly executed. Her interest in performing doesn't have much background behind it. She only sang once in the previous movie, yet in the sequel it's made out to be this lifelong passion of hers that she can't wait to show to the world, which is odd considering her previous talent was playing the piano, and she barely took advantage of that talent too. There's just no setup with regards to how her character is supposed to develop. The only noteworthy difference between the first and second movies is this inner voice that follows Jodie around and torments her with negative thoughts, which is another element that comes completely out of nowhere and has zero setup behind it. I don't understand why Jodie deals with this voice. She had no problem making a big speech in the last movie in front of a crowd of students at prom who prior to that point mocked her relentlessly for her height, and yet despite that she's basically the most popular girl in the school now, all of a sudden she has to deal with anxiety. The only other development for Jodie's character I can think of is her relationship with Jack Dunkelman, who in my view is the creepiest possible choice for a romance option. He was bad enough in the first movie, but in this one he's even more needy than before, always wanting to spend time with Jodie and never giving her a moment to breathe. There isn't much point to this romance being a thing anyway, because they only date for a total of 3 months before they break up, and they're basically only together for half an hour of screen time. The relationship has pretty much zero effect on Jodie's character arc, and he remained continuously annoying with his pathetic whining over the breakup. The pair are actually better off not being a couple. While they're single, Jodie is able to dedicate more time to practicing for the play, while Dunkelman takes up photography as a hobby. This could have been a great way to promote a message that you don't need to be in a relationship with someone to be happy, but the movie completely squanders this opportunity. Part of the problem lies with this attempted romance between Jodie and another character named Tommy. Tommy has no distinguishing characteristics other than his shared interest in performing and that he used to be overweight, which the movie tries to tie in with Jodie's insecurity regarding her height. Those two things aren't really comparable though, because Tommy was able to lose his weight and Jodie can't lose her height. And sure, Tommy says that he still feels overweight in his mind, but he's shown in the movie attending support groups to help overcome this feeling, so the connection between him and Jodie still falls flat in the end. Jodie's friend Farida has nothing to do other than cheer Jodie on with her play. She does have a subplot involving her parents wanting her to go to med school in one scene, but it's never talked about again. She does get into a relationship with the Swedish student Stig, but it's never satisfying to see play out because it can be seen coming a mile away. Stig isn't much better by himself, as he's made out to be a reject of sorts at his school, which doesn't make any sense because he was easily the most popular character there, even being prom king. One might assume it's because of the bad thing he did near the end of the first movie, but everyone else in the event was in on it, so it's not fair to single him out. It's a complete role reversal between him and Jodie, and it doesn't feel believable or realistic in its presentation. The same can be said for their anxiety attacks as well, which are never addressed in any healthy way. They're basically told to just suck it up and think happy thoughts rather than pursue any kind of mental health therapy. There's a new character introduced with Stig's sister Stella, who if anything just makes the fake Swedish accents in this movie twice as bad. She basically exists to provide a lesson to a character at a certain point in the story to stop pedestalizing someone, which is hilarious because she spends the whole movie pedestalizing her boyfriend Ingvar Bergman, so her presence is just annoying. Jodie's sister Hannah was one of the few things I enjoyed about the previous movie due to her sense of humor, and even her character is completely butchered in this one. She has nothing interesting to say or do, as she spends most of the movie getting ready to move to Los Angeles for an acting gig or something. I don't know. Her role was so boring I didn't even care. The bully Kimmy probably has the most baffling character transformation out of everyone. She still remains antagonistic toward Jody in the beginning, but for some reason she does a complete 180 later on, and there's no reason given as to why she suddenly starts being nice to her, and I'm not even going to bother getting into the drama between her and her friend Schnipper. Every single character in this movie is poorly developed in some way, shape, or form. All of them are bogged down in subplots that go nowhere, which distracts from the flow of the main story supposed to be taking place. There's no clear direction on where things are supposed to go, which makes for a frustrating experience to watch. With so much drama being present, one could be forgiven for forgetting that this is supposed to be a comedy. The comedy does ramp up occasionally, but as with the first movie, it simply just isn't funny. Much of it still comes down to cringeworthy dialogue and ridiculous slapstick. There are times when the movie tries way too hard to be funny. An example of this is when Jody and Jack are having a romantic dinner and there's an unrealistic number of setbacks that keep adding on top of one another. It reminded me of Thunder Force and how it kept dragging things out and left me wishing it would end. Jody's parents were a constant source of cringe in this regard as well. There's a scene where they keep going on about TikTok and giving it weird names like Tiki Talkie, and it goes on forever. It's one of the few times where I audibly reacted in pain to the stupidity I was watching. It seriously hurt to watch that scene. And the thing is, there's not that many of these funny scenes in the movie, if one can even call them funny. Most of the time, it's just one boring piece of teen melodrama after another. I'm glad it's not mean-spirited like other teen romance movies I've seen lately, but it's so uninspired in its approach, I'm stunned as to how the sequel was made in the first place. It's filled with cliches that make it appear identical to other movies before it. Peace offerings are made between friends, like with the ice cream from the kissing booth. Tommy is the other guy in Jody's life for like 2 minutes. Friends from the first movie become a couple in the second. There's just nothing original about it to make it stand out. The only remotely positive thing I can say about this movie is that the song and dance numbers are at least somewhat entertaining to watch. They're choreographed well, and they make good use of Jody's actress Ava Michelle's dance background. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like most of them are just filler to pad out the movie's runtime. One dance number is guilty of this, as it happens completely unprompted before the play even takes place and goes on for like 2 minutes. This occurs right after a tender moment as well, so the shift in tone is really jarring. Overall, Tall Girl 2 is yet another pointless teen rom-com that manages to be even more pointless than its predecessor, waving away whatever shred of relevance it had left in favor of aimless exposition. If you somehow enjoyed the previous Tall Girl movie, you might enjoy this sequel a little bit, but honestly, I'd recommend watching almost anything else. Even for those who generally like teen-oriented romances, there are way better options than this. I can't think of any reason why this movie should exist. It has no substance behind it, and not even any style for that matter. It almost feels like it was made just to be hate-watch material for those who dislike the first movie. While I can't really say that I hate it, it's definitely a bad movie through and through. What did you think about this movie? Did you appreciate it continuing the story of Jody Cramen, or were you just as bored and bothered by the sequel as I was? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Tall Girl 2. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the tech thriller, Kimmy. Bye bye!